Happy holiday and welcome to this edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Vafsheen Banal, Vincent Charles, and Chris Jerry, and our very special guest, Don Fishman, Assistant GM and Director of Legal Affairs for the Washington Capitals. We thank you for taking the time out from your busy schedule, especially during the holiday, to join us. We're going to talk all things Washington Capitals and have some fun here. So, Vafsheen, we're going to let you start it out.
How about those Caps, Don? They're up and down this year, but let's talk about what you do with the Washington Capitals.
Sure.
And you are focused on the salary cap. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us the process you have to go through when you're dealing with the likes of an Alex Ovechkin or Nicholas Backstrom or Braden Holtby?
Sure. The hockey followed the other sports, followed football and baseball, and we have a cap as of 2005, and we need to fit, basically we just need to fit the 23 guys on our roster into a cap, which this year is about $70 million. So when we're negotiating with an Ovechkin or a Holtby or a Backstrom, their contract is one piece of the puzzle, and we need to fit all the guys that are going to be on our roster into that $70 million puzzle. But we also need to look out into the future, because most times we're negotiating a multi-year deal with those guys. So it's a fun puzzle that you need to work with. And once the season rolls around, though, like now, it's sort of the coaches and the players.
Yeah. And the other part, the fun thing that you're doing too, I wanted to bring this up at the end, but I'm going to jump in and bring it up now. You're actually part of the planning in terms of the Washington Winter Classic.
The Winter Classic,
That's
yes.
right, at Nats Park, happening January the 1st to bring in the new year.
It's great. I mean, this is a week that we've been looking forward to for 4 years. I mean, when we played outside in Pittsburgh in Heinz Field in 2011, we told the NHL we wanted to get the game here in Washington, and we did get rewarded. They were true to their word. We've got it here, January of 2015, and it's going to be great. I mean, the whole organization's excited, and I think the city will start to be excited as we see this rink built at Nats Park, and then definitely on January 1st, it's going to be a great game, Chicago against Washington.
Yeah, I've seen it's some kind of fun. I've actually, when riding the subway, seen the posters already. And Joel Ward is on one of them. That's pretty cool. Nice. I wish someone wasn't looking. I probably would have took the poster. I digress.
I like Joe Ward. Actually, is one of my favorite players on the team. But I like the fact that what they are doing is bringing one of the original six in, Chris, the Chicago Blackhawks, coming into Nats Park to play the Capitals. So
well, so the selection of the team was such an interesting process, because I think most fans and onlookers thought we'd get Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, one of our more natural rivals. But I think the NHL, we were so bullish on our fan base that we could sell all these tickets and sell out Nats Park on our own. We didn't need to bring in a Philadelphia or a Pittsburgh to help us sell tickets. So they brought in Chicago, one of their marquee names, but obviously they're not going to bring a lot of their own fans from Chicago. It's going to be a Washington Capitals crowd. I think you're going to be really amazed when you see the crowd. It's going to be 40,000 people in red, but not that red. Well, some of them might be in that red, but a lot of them are going to be
in this red. And I wore this to impress Don. I'm rocking the red in my Capitals baseball jersey, you know.
So, Don, if you can expand, you know, when they first announced that this game was going to happen, how did the Capitals come to the decision that it would be at Nats Park and not at FedEx or at RFK Stadium?
That's a really good question. I was lucky to be part of the process. But the NHL came down probably about 10 months ago and toured Nats Park, RFK, and even toured FedEx. FedEx was a little bit more of a problematic choice because the game is played on January 1st, and the NFL season, of course, runs all the way through that weekend of January 1st, 4th, well, right around January 1st. So they would have needed a lot of cooperation from the NFL to put the Redskins on the road and sort of make the dates work, because they've started building out the rink at Nats Park on December 15th. Okay. So FedEx was a little bit more complicated. But RFK, the NHL seriously considered it. Would have given the game better sight lines probably, because RFK is more of a vertical stadium. It would have given the game an old school feel. For Washingtonians like myself. It would have been really neat, and I think it was a close call. In the end, Nats Park is a more modern facility, and especially in the cold of January 1. We've been at RFK on January in a cold December or January day,
those were the
and
days.
it's cold. So it'll be nice to be at a modern facility on January 1.
Hey, Vincent.
With this Winter Classic and with Chicago coming in here, how is the game divided as far as gate receipts, profits going? How is that pie divided?
That's a good question. The way the NHL does it, this is a marquee event for the league. They've done it now for about 5 or 6 years, or maybe it's 7 or 8 at this point. Huge television ratings. The NHL really puts on a great display on the ice. You're going to see a magnificent display, not only the rink itself, but around the rink. So the NHL takes over this event. They literally buy the game from the Capitals, and then they take charge of sort of everything, ticket sales, everything. Now, they then gave us back tickets to sell, but the NHL is the one that puts it on, makes a profit, so to speak. They relied on us to sell the tickets, but it really is an NHL event. They just bought out the game, the home game, from the Capitals.
So they would see fit as far as how much money the Caps would get or how much money the
The
Chicago
Caps,
Blackhawks
we
would get.
got our gate receipts, so to speak, because they literally bought out the game from the Capitals. So it's really an NHL game right now. The Blackhawks don't receive revenue from the game, and the Capitals don't really receive revenue. Okay. They already bought out the game from us based on what our average home game receipts were.
And if you're just tuning in, we want to remind everyone that this is the Nation's Capital Sports Show via Arlington Independent Media, AIM, Comcast 69 and Files 38. I'm Kevin Jeter with Afshin Bernard, Chris Jerry, and Vincent Charles, and we have Don Fishman with us. He's the Assistant GM and Director of Legal Affairs for the Washington Capitals.
So Don, moving away from the Winter Classic, down the line, what do you see with the NHL in terms of future TV contracts or things like that? I mean, how is that going to go? Was it a 10-year agreement with the players, or maybe I'm getting it confused with the NBA, but I think it was a long term.
The NHL just finished a CBA. We had that shortened lockout in 2012, and they did a long-term CBA, and the NHL actually also just renewed the television contract. Okay. So down the line, the NHL, you know, they went away from, if people remember, they went away from ESPN in 2004 and went to Versus. And at the time, it was probably criticized because Versus did not have the reach, obviously, that an ESPN has. But I think the market has realized that it actually was a smart move because ESPN was not giving the NHL first billing on its network. It was more, you know, baseball, football. And this has actually probably proved to be a good move for the NHL. To go to another network, the NHL also has its own NHL network, and really go to networks that are really going to put hockey first, lots of hockey highlights. The traditional fans that watch ESPN aren't going to see the hockey highlights anymore. ESPN doesn't have hockey. They're not showing a lot of hockey highlights. So I think it's going to stay the same path. It's going to be Versus, NHL Network. The Canadian TV deal that the league did is also a key deal. And I think the NHL has been probably among the most innovative in terms of going to mobile platforms and realizing that it's not just traditional cable media.
Okay.
What about, let's go back to the salary cap because I'm really interested in some of that and how you deal with the players. Have you ever, and you don't have to give us any names if you don't want to, have you ever come into some serious confrontation with with the numbers and how they go between you and a player and his agent?
Well, fortunately, in almost all cases, I'm working just with the agent, which is great. So I can leave the player out of it, and it's just me and the player agent. And it's always confrontational. I mean, that's part of the business. Just because it's confrontational doesn't mean it's nasty or mean-spirited. It's always confrontational. They have their point of view, we have our point of view, and it takes time. And you just try to keep it civil and come to an agreement. And fortunately, you've got term and money to work with. So, like we have a player, John Carlson, who he wanted to do a longer-term deal when he was young, and so we got probably a number, $3.9 million, that we were more comfortable with, but he got a 6-year deal. So you can sort of use term and money to sort of to come to a meeting of the minds. We just did a deal with Marcus Johansson a couple years ago where we did only 2 years with him, and we'll have to do another deal with him this summer.
Speaking of those contracts, Ovechkin has a deal I think that goes till 2021 maybe.
Right.
But is that all the way through, or is there a chance for an opt-out?
Hockey contracts there's no more options anymore.
No more options.
It's just we're the most straightforward of leagues. Okay. It's just it was a 13-year contract, and it'll put him right about at 35 years old when he finishes that deal. And the way he plays that, we'll see. I don't know if he'd have another deal after that. He plays a hard game. He's a forward. You know, forwards and especially wings that play a hard game like he does, they're not playing into their 40s usually. It's maybe some goalies or maybe some defensemen that are playing into their 40s.
I have a question pretty much in terms of contracts and incentives, and you don't have to mention any names. I know that Major League Baseball, they do certain incentives, and NBA basketball for certain players if they meet certain milestones. Is that the same for the NHL?
NHL after the 2004 lockout limited bonuses and incentives to just a couple types of players to rookie players, entry-level players, and to older players on one-year deals. So it's really just the rookies that get these big, big bonuses. Ovi hit all his bonuses his first 3 years. He finished top 10 in the league in goals, assists, and points. He won the Hart Trophy as MVP. So he earned full bonuses, which was about $2.8 million all of those years. Jonathan Taves, if you remember, and Kane for Chicago. They earned their full bonuses when the team won the Stanley Cup, and it actually put them over the cap, and they had a penalty the next year. So it's mainly the entry-level players that you're focused on these bonuses.
How fun is this? We were talking a little bit before the show, and you're actually from this area.
Yes.
And how fun is it to be from this area? You grew up being a Caps fan, and now you're actually a part of the Caps organization, doing what obviously you enjoy doing the best.
It's a blast. I'm soaking up every day of it. This is my 10th season with the team. I grew up a Caps fan. Grew up in Northwest Washington. I love the sport. Never really set out to be a sports lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer and worked for D.C. city government for about 4 years. And our former general manager, George McPhee, hired me because the league was just putting in place the salary cap, and he wanted a lawyer to work with him, to work with the cap, work on contract negotiations. And it's been a blast. It's also come about at a really fun time for the franchise. I came on board the year Alex Ovechkin joined the team, so it's sort of, for those Washington fans that remember, this is sort of this new iteration of the Capitals began with that year. And we've obviously not gone as far in the playoffs as we'd want, but we've had some good runs, and we've built a fan base here. People are wearing this jersey around town.
You know, I want to go back to something, because when you started talking about the different TV networks, it jogged something in my memory, and that is, there's this talk that Monumental is perhaps at some point going to have its own network and its own television channel. Can you tell us a little bit about that, if that's going to happen or how that will work?
I think it's just among for those of you who don't know, Monumental's the entity that owns the Wizards, the Caps, and the arena. I think it's just what's going on in the marketplace generally, which is the sports rights, the rights to these teams, to televise baseball games, televise basketball games, hockey games, are so profitable these days. It's really the only must-see live action going on right now in the cable landscape. It's just so valuable. I mean, you look at the sales of the Dodgers and some other teams, it's so intertwined with cable TV rights, and so I think that any NBA owner and NHL owner realizes that your cable TV rights are really as valuable probably as the team itself, and the fan revenues is the rights to show these games. People love it. People love watching their basketball and hockey and baseball on TV.
That's right. Well, look at the Masson deal. Well, we won't
not
elaborate
yet.
on that, but beyond that, you're right in terms of the NHL and Monumental Sports want to branch out on that. But how much can they branch out when you have the NHL that broadcast games, and then the NHL network, and then you have the Monumental network? I mean, there has to be a divide in between the two, correct?
Well, and hockey's like baseball and basketball, or most of the games are pretty much on local TV. The ones that are on NHL network or Versus are very few of the games. It's of our 82 games, probably 70 to 75 are on local cable TV. That's the primary mode.
I find this all to be interesting because Comcast now does the NHL games, does the Caps games.
Yes.
And
right.
so it's interesting to see how will that play out, you know, if Monumental takes over the broadcasting of your own game, your own entity, you know?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
How about Ted Leonsis? We always hear about great things about him, that he's very patient. He does seem to be, especially when it was about, you know, with the Wizards and Ernie Grunfeld, and now they've turned it around. Always very patient with George McPhee. Is that an accurate assessment, a true accurate assessment of Ted Leonsis, that he's patient, he likes to sit back and observe everything before he makes harsh decisions?
I'd say that Ted's a great owner. I think he's exactly what you want as an owner. He's so passionate about the team. He wants to win. That's his first priority. He's like a fan. He wants to win. But I think Ted realizes, as a business person, that you're not going. He realized early on as an owner, probably in his first few years owning the teams in '97, '98, that it's not going to happen immediately. He brought in Jaromir Jagr, you remember, as one of his first moves.
Sure.
And he realized that there was no quick route to success. There's no shortcuts to success in pro sports. So I think with both teams, he's now been a lot more patient ever since that. And we're obviously hoping for a title for the Caps and the Wizards, I hope. He's patient, but yet he's watching them very closely. He doesn't sit back. I wouldn't say that. Ted's Ted's at all the games. He's watching it closely. But I think he's made a concerted effort to try to be patient.
And that patience has flew over, has meshed with the Wizards, as you mentioned that, because
Finally. Yes. it
oh,
has.
well, I can speak for myself.
Yeah.
I was telling Don, I used to be a little bit critical of the Washington Wizards, but I sat back and saw the maturation of John Wall, Bradley Beal, and the other pieces that they brought in. It kind of reminds me of this team of circa 1970, in the 70s, when they had the Joe Pace, the Larry Wright, and they had Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes.
Yeah, those are great players.
You know, running one-hander, Barney
Yeah.
Dandridge. I mean, I got to kind of like what I see with this year's Washington Wizards, and it's a great process.
We haven't had two teams in the playoffs in Verizon Center for a while. This will be really neat if we get to April and we can have both teams in the playoffs. It'll be fun for Washington.
Yes, it would.
Oh, absolutely. Can we switch gears for a minute? You and Chris in the green room were talking about minor league hockey, and you brought something up that was quite interesting, I thought, possibly, and Chris, you can expand on this, or Vincent, bringing a team to Baltimore would be a great idea, you think, or maybe Richmond, and kind of taking that corridor and making it a Washington Capitals territory. Do you think you see that down in the future?
Well, I don't know if it'll be minor league hockey, but it's definitely a focus of the organization to grow the fan base. Washington's not a traditional hockey town. Hershey, Pennsylvania is where our current minor league team is. Baltimore actually has a rich hockey tradition. We've played a couple minor league games there. We talked about Richmond has a hockey tradition. Right. It would be great, and I think we have done it as this team has grown over the past 7-8 years. We've got hockey fans from Hershey. If you go look on a map, from Hershey to Frederick to Baltimore to Washington down to Richmond, following this team. It would be nice to grow the sport and get some minor league teams or college teams in these areas. But we definitely want to grow the fan base. We don't want Washington just to be a beltway team.
Okay. Something that's always interested me in terms of local sports here, I know that the Nationals have a urban or local presence in bringing youths who would not normally be interested in playing baseball. How does the Capitals stand in terms of that?
We do a lot with the local hockey community. We have a lot of rink partners throughout the area, throughout the region, in fact, as far from up in Frederick. We also work with Fort DuPont Ice Arena, that you know is across the river, has its own hockey tradition, you know, dating back from really the time the Caps were established in the mid-'70s. So, and we also have, as you'll see on display, we work with a lot of Army veteran groups that play hockey, Wounded Warriors that play hockey. They'll be playing actually at the Winter Classic, so you'll see that. Cool. So it's a huge effort for the league generally. The league does a lot in New York with the New York teams in Harlem, and the Caps do it here with Fort DuPont.
When you talk about these outdoor games and the Winter Classic being so popular, what do you think about the idea of having a few regular season Capitals games outdoors, or even in the minor leagues, having minor league games outdoors?
You know, the fad has really caught on. I mean, every year the AHL does put on a few games outdoors. There was even a team in one league a few years ago that did try to have regular games outside. It would be neat to see. I wonder if the NHL would ever allow the teams to put it on their own and do one a year. That would be a neat step. It is a huge endeavor, though, to put in an ice sheet outside to make it playable, so it counts. This game is worth 2 points in the standings. And I don't think you can do it that often, because as you'll see January 1, it's a wonderful event, but it's cold outside. Sure. It's cold for the fans. It's cold for the players. But I think that's a neat thought. You know, I wonder if a team will try to, get a game or two on their own and do it outside, because I think it's really fun for the fans. It's unique. I love trying to do unique things with our team, with start times. We've played a game on the day after Thanksgiving the last few years at 5 p.m., which is new for us. We play a game on Super Bowl Sunday for years at 1 p.m. before the Super Bowl. I think fans want to see unique things. We play 41 games a year. Baseball plays 81. I think a little novelty is fun.
And planning this, the Winter Classic, what have been the obstacles and the trials and tribulations and seeing this through?
The hardest thing was picking the site, I guess. It was really a touch and go there with RFK and Nats Park. I don't think Nats Park was finalized till just this September, was sort of the first obstacle. And we'll see. The weather probably is the biggest one, that in the next few days will probably be the other obstacle people will talk about. When we played in Pittsburgh, they pushed the game back from 1 p.m. till 8 p.m. because of rain. The league holds January 2nd as a standby date in case there's a lot of rain. So weather is the biggest obstacle, but the league likes a little. That's why the league likes this game. They like a little uncertainty. It adds to the fun.
Well, I hope it's in the 20s because on Christmas they're talking about in the DMV. They're talking about temperatures being in the 50s or
Yeah.
60s.
Right.
And we don't need that.
Tough. 50s, it's a good point. I mean, if we had the Christmas weather, the 50s and rain on January 1, it would be a problem.
Yeah, slush fest.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, last year I think it snowed at the Winter
So that's
Classic,
what the
didn't
league
it? Which
wants. The
was
league wants snow
very cool.
and add to the visual. I mean, I think fans are going to love the visual at Nats Park. I can't tell you now what it's going to be, but it's not just the hockey rink. It's the way they're decorating the field and the other visuals. It's going to be a great show
Yeah.
in addition to the hockey game.
So you have found the secret to life. Something that you love is your work,
right.
That's
and you
right.
get paid for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And your job, you have to really think out of the box.
And we, you know, it's a secret. It's the fun of life if we win a cup. So I would like that. That's the next step.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Don. Don Fishman, Assistant
Thank
GM
you.
and Director
Thanks for having me.
of Legal Affairs for the Washington Capitals. That is a long title. We're glad that you were able to join us, especially during this holiday season. I mean, are you done shopping?
I'm all done.
Oh man, I'm jealous. All right, so for Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, Chris Jerry, I'm Kevin Jeter. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. After the jump, it's all sorts of sports. We're going to talk about everything that we want to talk about in 7 minutes.
Let's do it.
This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter with Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, and Chris Jerry. You can catch us on Facebook, like us as a matter of fact, at www.facebook.com/TNCSS. It is with sad and heavy hearts that we pay tribute and wish Ken Briley, who lost his brother, Les Briley, recently. And it's rough, especially during this holiday season. And you was a devoted Burgundy and Gold fan.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. And I know he will be wished or missed by many. All right. Gentlemen, let's talk about all sorts of sports. 7 minutes of what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports in the DMV. I'm just going to toss this one out here because we love to talk about baseball, especially during the wintertime with the Washington Nationals. They have made a couple of wholesale changes. Ross Detweiler, of course, is no longer here. Adam LaRoche is up in Chicago for the White Sox. He joins another Adam who used to be a National here, Adam Dunn. But don't feel so sorry for Adam LaRoche. He signed a 2-year deal at $20 million, and that's actually to ride out his career, or end his career, I should say, Afshin.
Yeah, and not only that, Chicago's made quite a few off-season moves, so they probably will be a formidable opponent for the Detroit Tigers in the ALC Central, in the AL Central. But the Nationals, yes, they lost Mr. Detweiler, and I've heard all kinds of things about Mike Rizzo making moves in the next coming weeks, so we'll have to see what they do. But that does put Drew Storen now in the closer role as the sole legitimate closer for the Washington Nationals in 2015.
Also, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper avoided arbitration. As a matter of fact, he gets that this year $2.5 million. In 2016, it goes to $5 million. The brass of the Nationals they were a little disappointed because he didn't go to the Nationals Fan Fest. I don't know.
Too bad, so sad.
Yeah, I know, Chris.
Yeah, a guy that I'm going to kind of miss and really have one big highlight. That's Steven Souza Jr. that made the diving catch that saved Jordan Zimmerman's no-hitter at the last game of the regular season. But this is a guy that had a lot of promise. He was the International League Player of the Year, so hopefully the Marlins got a good pickup there and that the Nationals got something they can use in the future.
And it seems like they're going to bring up Giolito too, right?
Yes.
They're talking about it a little bit.
They're
They're going to give him an
talking about
opportunity, hopefully, in training camp.
Right, they're talking about that. And one of the other guys they got was Trey Thompson, the shortstop, who was a number 13 overall draft pick, I think in 2000, I want to say 12. So he's Mike Rizzo's stocking up the farm system.
I think
again.
both teams are going to find that was a good trade.
Yeah.
Now, those two guys going to the White Sox, hey, they're going to hit home runs. But the White Sox, they are going to lead the league in strikeouts, believe
yeah.
me. Yeah. That means Jordan Zimmerman, he's at home oiling up those first baseman mitts. Now, you talk about trade talk and trade rumors, things like that. We may see Tyler Clippard get dealt away because there's only so much money to go around, and the Nats have to sign a lot of people in the next few years.
That's right. So let's move on because we only have 7 minutes, sir. We want to talk about a lot in 7 minutes, so we don't want to make this a Washington National segment. Chris.
So yeah, well, as you see today, I have on my DC United shirt, and so
Yes.
the long quest for a stadium in the city of Washington for DC United looks to be almost home with the deal that the DC City Council agreed to spend up to $150 million taxpayer money. I'm a DC resident. I ain't too happy about that, but maybe the stadium is finally going to come. There's a few hurdles to jump. One of is the land acquisition, but supposedly the city gets the land acquisition, and then what happens is the team will build the stadium maybe by 2017.
And Buzzards Point is actually going to be the site?
Buzzards Point, for folks who don't know where Buzzards Point is, if you look at a map, you'll see Fort McNair. It's the area between Fort McNair and South Capitol Street, and that general area across the street from Nationals Park.
Yeah, it's not too far from Nats Park.
So if you build it, will they come, Vincent?
I think they will. I think it'll be a great thing for DC United, and then the field will be level. They'll have a stadium just like a lot of the other teams in the league.
Yeah, especially reminiscent of Chris. I never forget, man. It's 4 years after the making, but we went up to
Red Bull Arena.
Red Bulls, man. I was so impressed with that style of arena or park, and you told me that's usually the norm in a lot of the modern type of facilities.
Well, I think, Red Bull Arena up in Harrison, New Jersey, across the Passaic River from Newark, I think that's the best soccer stadium. If DC United can do anything, copy from their rival that stadium, because that's the best soccer stadium in the United States for that type of size of, between 22 and 25,000 seats.
And that's a good thing about the soccer stadiums is that you're getting away from these big 50, 60, 70,000 seat stadiums that football teams playing, and now you have your own Kansas City.
But it's going to take a little wait.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Right? 2017 is when it's going to open.
Right, it's going to take a little bit of time, and it'll be down by Buzzards Point. So, and hopefully they'll have the infrastructure, the road network will be in place by then, that there won't be any of those hassles that we see, even when we still today go to FedEx Field.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
speaking of hassles, let's talk a little bit about the Washington Redskins. Well, the Redskins, as of this broadcast, well, not as of this broadcast, but they created a little hassle for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that the Burgundy and Gold won one narrowly.
Yeah, they did. They actually won one, and Robert Griffin III was the starting quarterback for Washington. So they won the fourth game of their season, and they have one game left, and that's against the Dallas Cowboys. And that game will mean nothing now because Dallas has already beaten Indianapolis.
Quite a surprise. The Redskins protected RG3 very well. Alfred Morris had a good game running. But I'll tell you one thing. I wish the Redskins, when they make a routine play, would stop the dancing.
Yeah.
Okay? When you don't win like the Redskins, there's no need to be doing all that dancing.
All right, we're going to let Chris get in here.
No, I'll just say that the big Super Bowl win for the Redskins against
That's right.
Philadelphia, that's what it felt like. They were happy.
That's right.
So good for them.
So I'm going to read one more email real quick. You guys answer. Lauren Shapiro of Washington, D.C. says that she enjoys watching the show. Her question is about basketball. Do you think that the D.C. area will ever put on a classic basketball series like the Big Five in Philadelphia? Real quick.
No.
It would be a great idea, but they haven't done it now. I don't know why they're going to do it in the future because, nobody seems to want to make that effort. But it would be awesome if they did.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. All right, so our email address is info@tncss.net. You can watch the Nation's Capital Sports Show on AIM via Comcast 69 and Files 38, Sunday at 3 p.m., Monday at 9:30 a.m., and Friday at 9:30 p.m. It's been quite a year for the Nation's Capital Sports Show. 2014 came and went. We'll still have a couple
like
more
that.
days left, but the good thing about it is we lived through a lot of the sports stories of this year, and we hope to create a different sports specter come 2015. I'm going to take a back seat a little bit. Afshin's going to be holding the fort. I'm going on a little bit to another venture, radio on part-time. So I can't be at two places at two times, but nonetheless, I digress. For Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, Chris Jerry, I'm Kevin Jeter. We thank you for watching and listening to the nation's capital sports show, where it's most definitely on. Happy holidays and take care.